The Mormaerdom, a Kingdom of Moray, was a lordship in high medieval Scotland that was destroyed by King David I of Scotland in 1130. It did not have the same territory as the modern local government council area of Moray, which is a much smaller area around Elgin. The medieval lordship was in fact centred on both the lower Spey Valley and around Inverness and the northern parts of the Great Glen, and probably originally included Buchan and Mar, as well as Ross. History of Moray. Before 1130, dynasty of Findlage to Oengus. In the century or two before 1130, the name Moray described a polity far larger than the later county or district of the same name, which at its largest extended from Dramocta in the south to the Scandinavian-held lands of Caithness and Sutherland in the north. Moray would also eventually cover from Buchan in the east to the Atlantic Ocean in the west. N.J. Saga of the Icelanders mentions Mormaers and kings in northern Scotland from the later 10th century, namely Jarl Melsnator and King Melchior of Scotland. Both date from the period 976 to 995. However, no king named Melchior reigned in Scotland in this period. N.J. Saga was not written as a historical guide for details outside Iceland or Scandinavia, and the text is notoriously unreliable. Moray was ruled by a Gaelic-speaking dynasty, the most notable perhaps being King Macbeth of Scotland, who ruled from 1040 to 1057. These rulers were sometimes styled meaning king or Mormaer meaning great steward. Irish annals record the killing of Findlage, son of Ruaidhri, Mormaer of Moray, in 1020 by the sons of his brother Maelbrigte. Both Findlage and Melchior are styled king of Alba rather than of Moray in one obituary, but this may be an error or exaggeration. Melchior's brother and successor Gillicoimgain is recorded as Mormaer of Moray. The death of Melchior, son of Maelbrigte, is recorded in 1029, and, in 1032, that of his brother Gillicoimgain, killed along with 50 of his men. Gillicoimgain's successor, and probably also his killer, was his cousin Macbeth. Macbeth married Gillicoimgain's widow Grook, a princess of the MacAlpin dynasty, and became King of Scots in 1040, after defeating and killing Duncan I of Scotland in battle. Later sources suggest that Macbeth had a claim to the Scottish throne through his mother, but his Gaelic pedigree, on record only 2 generations after his death, traces his descent through his father Findlage and grandfather Ruaidhri from the House of Lone Kings of Dalriata. The pedigree of Macbeth from the Lone Kings of Dalriata offers a clue to the origins of his dynasty in Moray. Moray may have been a separate kingdom for a time, independent of the dynasty of Kenneth MacAlpin. However, it seems likely that rulers of Moray were subject loosely to the kings of Alba. Moray acted as a buffer against further Scandinavian penetration from the north, and its rulers were remembered with respect in Scandinavian sources such as Orkneyinga saga. Macbeth himself was in turn killed and defeated in 1057. After which, his stepson Lullic, son of Gillicoimgain, and presumably also of Grook, claimed the Scottish throne briefly before being himself killed in 1058. Lullic's son, Maelsnaechtai, died in 1085 as King of Moray. Later, an earl named Aed or Heth, who witnesses royal charters early in the next century, may also have been based in Moray. The last ruling member of the dynasty, styled King or Earl of Moray, was Oengus, son of the daughter of Lullic. Oengus challenged David I of Scotland in battle, but was defeated and killed at Strathcathro in Angus in 1130, and thus the Kingdom of Moray was destroyed by David I of Scotland. With the death of Angus brought the rapid feudalisation of Moray under Fleming Frescan, who was of Flemish and Norman descent, and his descendants who adopted the significant designation de Moravia, which means of Moray. claims that William Fitz-Duncan became the last Mormaer of Moray cannot be substantiated, and his claim for the Scottish throne proved unsuccessful. Malcolm Macbeth, who rebelled against David I, but was later made Earl of Ross, may have been related to the old rulers of Moray, as may also have been the mysterious women. Later Macbeth claimants to Moray were unsuccessful. After 1130, suppression of Moray. David I of Scotland's suppression of the Kingdom of Moray in 1130 did not mark the end of the province's significance, or of the problems its management caused to the kings of Scotland. Despite the expulsion of its line of rulers, Moray continued to be referred to in the early 13th century as a land separate to Scotia, even when the realm of Scotland was recognised as stretching as far north as Caithness. Moray was still recognised as one of the chief northern provinces. The Gaelic notes in the Book of Deer dating from the mid-12th century offer a glimpse of the holding of land and the ordering of society in Moray. The actions of the Crown's royal government during the century after 1130 seemed to create differences between the upland regions of the province and the coastal districts of the Lake of Moray. Between the River Spey and Inverness, the Crown's existing estates were concentrated in these coastal regions, and between 1130 and 1230 the kings established sheriffdoms centred on Inverness, Nairn, Forres and Elgin, providing a framework for royal authority in the province. The extension of royal government was accompanied by the settlement of immigrants in the Lake of Moray. Lands were given to the Crown's supporters, the most important of whom was Fleming Frescan, who was of Flemish Norman descent. Frescan founded the de Moravia or Moray family. The senior line of de Moravias would later become Earls of Sutherland, chiefs of Clan Sutherland, and another branch of the same family who took the name Murray became chiefs of Clan Murray and later Earls of Athol. The final area of change in the province of Moray after 1130 was religion. There was a Bishop of Moray before 1130. However, a diocese of Moray with an established centre at Elgin Cathedral with a parochial structure was achieved only during the 13th century. Reformed religious houses were founded at Beaulieu, Plescardin and Kinloss, while the changes that took place in the centuries following the 1130 defeat of the kings of Moray secured the Lake of Moray under the authority of the Crown. The interior of the province from Loch Alsh to Strathbogie remained a source of difficulty and threat. Attempts to revive the old earldom of Moray and challenge the King of Scotland found support in these areas. Leaders such as Wymond, the son of the Earl of Angus, and the MacWilliam family were able to raise allies from the Gaelic uplands of Moray, which led to warfare in the region from the 1140s to the 1220s. The kings normally left the defeat of these enemies to their aristocratic vassals. The interior of the province from the Great Glen to Strathbogie was divided between 6 or more families, the greatest of which, at this time, was the Clan Cummin Lords of Badenoch and Lochaber. 1296 to 1346, Wars of Independence and creation of the Earldom of Moray. Moray's importance as part of the Kingdom of Scotland was demonstrated during the years of major warfare between 1296 and 1340. The province was relatively untouched by direct fighting, and royal-led English armies penetrated Moray on only 3 occasions in 1296, 1303 and 1335, and significant English occupation occurred only in 1296 to 97. This security meant that it was a vital refuge and recruitment ground for the Scottish Guardians between 1297 and 1303, and provided Robert I of Scotland with a base and allies during his northern campaign against the Commons and their allies in 1307–08. The province was forced to submit to Edward I of England in 1303, and Robert I of Scotland therefore clearly recognised the significance of Moray for the security of his realm. In 1312 Robert I re-established the earldom of Moray for his nephew, Thomas Randolph, 1st Earl of Moray. The new earldom included all of the old province and the crown lands of the late Thomas's son John Randolph was killed in 1346, leaving no heir, and the other noble families, including the Commons, Strathbogies and Morays, had all disappeared from or left the province by between 1300 and 1350. With the absence of noble leaders, power fell to lesser figures who functioned in kin-based groups such as the Clan Donachai of Athol and the Chatan Confederation, which centered on Badenoch. This drew in lords and men from outside of the province, from further south, such as the Dunbars and Stuarts, who staked claims to rule the province of Moray. In 1372 the earldom of Moray was divided between them, with John Dunbar receiving the coastal districts and Alexander Stuart, favourite son of Robert II of Scotland, being made Lord of Badenoch in the uplands. Other areas which were previously part of the Kingdom of Moray were also made into earldoms separate from that of Moray, including Ross, Mar and Buchan. Comparative Moravian and Scottish genealogies. This table is a comparison of the genealogies apparently used by the kings of Mormaerdom and of Alba. Both trace the descent to ERCC. All three, incidentally, are called King of Alba in the manuscript. List of Mormaers. The following names and dates are based on people named in sources. All are Moravians named in sources either as King of Scotland or just Mormaer. The beginning and end dates are virtually always based on known death date, and assuming the next named successor actually did succeed, and succeeded immediately. Earldom of Moray. Bibliography.